Options. Strange, yeah. Why it's having it fit with not recognized.
I got the, at least I got the audio. I know. I'm not gonna vote either.
I'm wondering if it's.
So we're just gonna have the audio. We won't actually have the video portion of it. It's not giving me the option. We are recording, yes.
I'll repeat correspondence. Is there any correspondence?
No.
We have no correspondence. Okay, first thing on the agenda is election of officers and the position of vice chairman. Nominations are open.
Second.
A motion to nominate Steve Bender. Is there any other nominations? Anyone else? Is there a motion to close nominations?
Second.
A motion is second to close nominations. All in favor of Mr. Bender as vice chair, say aye. Opposed, hearing none. You are the vice chairman, sir. Congratulations. First, next thing on the agenda is item number 7, discussion and action on resolution 3810-2022 from Jackson County. This is prohibition of private funding of election administration. I do know that is a rather old resolution from last year. So I have a motion to bring it forward. Motion and a second. Is there anyone here that can speak to this? Well, my interpretation of what I'm reading here, there was an issue, I think specifically this young with one from Green Bay, as I recall. And Jackson County is of the position that should be taken obviously through our county board and when they come registration. A motion on the floor, and a second to motion is to approve. What's the motion?
Yes.
You're moving to approve it? I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Motion carries. It will move forward to the calling board. Number 8, discussion and action on resolution 04-2023 from Green Lake County. This is a request from the state of Wisconsin to use a portion of the 2023 budgetary surplus for maintenance, repair, and replacement of county trunk highway system. Do I have a motion to bring it forward? A motion and a second. Discussion. Okay. Bob, would you like to address the committee and have an opinion on this?
Obviously, from really, we definitely additional funding, like 5 o'clock.
I think this is specific to the local road improvement program. And how are we currently funded the last time around?
I don't know exactly what the funding is here, but obviously additional funding.
Okay. There you go. Any other comments or discussion?
I just interrupt that. I think every county board, one of the biggest expenses there. You know, I mean, we spend basically $5 to $6 million a year on road improvement. I mean, it comes on to our taxpayers, so if they have $7 billion, there's no reason why they couldn't share a little of that with the counties and help us out. You know, so that way it would be using our tax money, because we're restricted by what we can raise taxes. So it's really hard to keep up on the maintenance of roads when we have a limited amount of resources. We got a highway department that needs $10 to $12 million worth of work, and now we can budget that in with our road work. I don't know where we're gonna get the money from in the fall to complete the project, so I think it's, you know, would be essential if the state could help us out a little bit.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none. The motion is second on the floor. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Opposed, hearing none, the motion carries. Number 9. Discuss action resolution to urge the Wisconsin legislature to provide 18.7 million in stable core funding support for county conservation department staffing. I do have a little background on this area, gentlemen, and basically the state under chapter 92 provides funding, I believe, through DECAT for our land water conservation department staff. And that has never really been to what they had promised years ago. So this resolution primarily is requesting full funding of that program. We have with us the director of land water. I asked him to attend, so if you have any questions or perhaps you'd like to offer some comments. Jeff?
About this, so currently we're funded, requiring a unit to, we're currently funded.
Chad, any other discussion? Yeah.
I know that we just approved like $3 million for the land and water. I asked Chad when we could, you know, get that, how we could get that done sooner. He figured that was 10 or 15 years because we don't have the staff to basically do it. And if the state would fund one more person, we could really improve the water quality in the county. We took $3 million of ARPA funds to work on that, but he doesn't have the staff to implement it. So we're still looking at basically accomplish that because we're short-handed on staff. If we could get one more person in that office, we probably could cut that down to 7 or 8 years. And that's what we're leaving behind for our children. Is what we basically have today. If we can improve the water quality, it will be better for them and it's done for our grandchildren. But it would just be great if they could find one more position for a lot of counties so that they could get these projects done.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comments or discussions? Karen?
Chad, I mentioned that we will be replacements on world water than any other county in the state, except for Folsom County.
Yeah, so we're going to be right exact, I just, in the purpose of having the state.
The county is important probably, but not just for Winnebago County, but for the entire state. It's got diversity on that much water.
Yeah,
The Stockport water says that we over 3 states. That's all 100 square miles, 800 square miles. So that's only very few. Unfortunately, protected. So is it in order for me to move that we assign a number and bring this to the county board?
it is.
If we do so,
Howard second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Number 10, discussion action on state of Wisconsin 2023 bill, which is an act. I'm not sure it's actually a bill yet. I think it's being circulated, if I'm correct. To create 46.281, para 1N, para BM of the statutes relating to requiring allowance of healthcare providers to refer individuals to aging and disability resource centers for option counseling. The request for this agenda item was brought by Supervisor Norton. I'll do that in discussion first of all. Is there a motion to bring it forward, put it on the floor?
I'll move.
A motion on the second. Supervisor Norton, would you be good enough to give us a little background on this?
Well, I'll give a little, I do know that, Sean George from Representative office wasn't online. He's the one who contacted me, if he wanted me to, spread the word and get, I, in there, he writes about Robert to discuss it, and we'll say, and Sean George can talk more about it, but I know Dr. Robert was not so keen on the idea. He thinks it would put the unburden on ERC. It's unfunded management. He doesn't deserve it. But that's mine. I'm just saying for it because, Representative will Dr. about that.
Is this bill being circulated or does it actually have a number and it's a bill and going to? What's the status of the bill?
I say it should be circulated. If any, that's going better than I know. Speaking of.
Okay. How do you want to address this, gentlemen? It's actually not a bill yet, so we don't have a number to support. Other than concept. Want to have any thoughts? Motion does that. So your motion would be to postpone to a date certain? That would be 3 months from now,
No, actually, May, the 4th week of May.
correct?
Mhm. I don't have the date right in front of me.
That's the bill. Okay, so you said May 14th?
The 4th week of May,
4th week of May.
4th Monday. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to propose and a second. A motion to postpone to a date certain, which would be May.
And that's what Karen said.
Consider that motion as precedence. All in favor of the motion to postpone, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Now the motion carries. That will be delayed until a May meeting. Next thing, we pretty much everything being brought forward. Is there any from the committee members that they would like to see on the agenda in May meeting? Hearing none, we'll simply kind of proceed as we always have, resolution. What's the motion forward by members of the board. The next one is to discuss proposed potential state legislation as presented by our local legislators committee members. We have with us today Representative Schrock. Thank you for being here, sir. Representative Fine and our own at-home representative, Nate. I'm gonna have trouble pronouncing your last name, so help me out. Thank you. That's the word. And let me recognize the gentleman beside you. Mr. Vina was that. Okay, yep.
Chuck, we also have Sydney Rose here too from Senator Cabral Rivera's office.
Okay,
Say the last.
Pardon me?
I would like to hear the last two names.
Okay,
So that is Sydney Rose Estelle? Faisal, sorry, my apologies. She is from Senator Rachel Cabral Cavero's office. And we have Chris, thank you, Ravine from Glenn Grothman's office.
okay, thank you. So is, I believe we're on number 12. Is there any proposed potential state legislation pending?
State Senator Dan Fine, Bob White, represent the 18th Senate District, which is one. Portion. The big thing we're starting to talk about is starting to do during the budget. Our deep dive is getting to the K-12 education portion of it. We are still take a look at the budget, June 30th is the deadline. $7.1 billion surplus. Probably about 2.1 to 2.4 of funding. Although you never mentioned the LMIP program before. Is whether we put more money into something like that, or we just give each county X number of dollars that isn't in a specific program to be used, or the grant program that we done or two sections ago. Where it was a simple one-page grant application, and I knew the word simple, and cover up the main things. So we're really starting to do these dives, cover the numbers, and probably on the Senate. You should be talking with the Assembly and find out if our numbers match with their numbers. Sometimes they don't know. So they're getting requests from the meeting with a lot of people on what they want to see in this budget. So get down to child care agencies, to counties, towns, and municipalities. So also talk about shared revenue, increasing that for all municipalities and counties. Want to caution everyone in the room, and that's with the formula. Careful what you wish for, there's going to be winners and losers. I have laid out every municipality in my district, and not the counties, because I only have two that I know. I know where you guys know numbers are. Share revenue, but if you look at right now, there are some townships that are getting $500, some that are getting 35 cents. So if you're on the $500 level, you're not going to get from 35 cents. Kind of property tax. See the Milwaukee pension system that it's very sticky, in my opinion. So it's a long discussion. The good part is it's March, so not in May. So we're a long ways away from one-line decision. The other thing I would bring up is the state joint finance committee, which puts the budget together with input from all legislators are having 4 listening sessions around the state. The first one is next week, Wednesday, it is in Waukesha, I believe. And there's one in Eau Claire, Wisconsin Dells, and Managua. So if you're interested in traveling to either one of those, you can, or you can go on to the Joint Finance Committee's website. The link you can click on, specific comments online. You have to go to all the Joint Finance Committee. What you want to see. So, if you want to make a drive to Waukesha, Wisconsin Dells, or you want to do so, but it seems it's not really close to our area. Now, I'll turn it over to assembly colleagues and we can.
We're still on the agenda. This was regarding. We'll come back to it. Is there any other potential legislation pending that we need to be aware of? Now we'll move on to number 13, which is an update from the county exec. I see he's not with us this morning. So we'll go to number 14. That is the update on statement. Representative Brown. Of course, how are you?
Good. Want to add, is, Senator Biden had stated, it seems to be a little bit slower for, potential bills rolling on the rate. The main focus is on the budget. All of us are submitting budget lists. Later, submit budget asks for budget. One of my bigger ones, is going to be increasing the rate of the budget. We're just continuing to see the vacancy rate, continue to climb. We have 7 facilities right now that are over 40%. So they're really operating at a, deficit. Not a lot of people going to the admin, a lot of people right now. So I have a budget ask, we see the pay for professional officers, $7 an hour. $3.50. So we want to get the starting wage up there. And keep some of the people that are contemplating retirement, to keep them around a little bit longer until we can. As Dan mentioned, the hot topic that everyone here is probably interested in, this is your revenue. What is being discussed, which looks like it will move forward at a pretty good pace, is to take what I caution is, in a good economy, when our sales tax revenue is increasing, that's going to be positive, potentially more like, if sales tax would be less. We did learn last week that there actually is only been history of the state of Wisconsin that sales tax. I'm not sure if that was 1929 or pretty sure it's a lot of people are working on it actually the last year, even before the governor proposed it in his budget address. We all know that that formula is pretty messed up, and sometimes the dance and getting as little as $10,000 in shared revenue, and other Pretty significant amount there. K-12 funding, yeah.
Are we talking about increasing revenue using the current formula? Or are we talking about changing the formula and then increasing? Because I'm a little confused on Dan's comment there about the direction of where we're going.
Yeah, I think, I have two other colleagues there, you're probably gonna have to tweak it, but to have an actual segregated fund and that's for how much you're gonna be able to change that formula. There is gonna be some incentives for counties, townships, municipalities that try to consolidate and do some shared services. There's gonna be a couple $100 million set aside in kind of a separate fund.
Such as fire.
What's that?
Such as fire trucks.
Yeah, sharing, fire services, sharing IT. There are a lot of things that are in state government and local government that could be shared. And then you see economies of scale with that, so there'll be, some money set aside for that. A lot of, everybody's saying, well, you want to know where our numbers would come in. And I mean, it's really hard to project right now, but I think, realistically, you could be looking in the area of maybe at the numbers that we've seen so far. There's no guarantees with anything because when the final budget comes out, a lot of things can change. That's one of the bigger things.
So might ask, this money, is that coming from the surplus or will that simply be an increased budget item?
Which would be money set aside from sales tax revenue, going into the second.
One cent. Right now, we use all our sales tax for something.
Yeah.
So it's just tying it to the economic condition. Okay, so we're just gonna use that 1 cent, and we're gonna use that other money for something else. So it's really just tying it to the economic condition and the level of funding. The answer to your question is it changing the formula? I think I haven't seen for sure. My understanding is locking it in place where you're at right now, and then do the increase and try and bring that bottom level up.
Well, you just said all the sales tax is used for something.
We're using
Denote or dedicate 1 cent of that sales tax to a defined purpose, then who's gonna lose the revenue from that thing? Well, you can all.
$1 million, that's a billion.
Okay, yeah.
Why we're not doing this.
That means, what else do we do? I've got a bill, this would be, I think, all segment, but, we're getting a lot of calls from, people that live in, and purchasing, 120, 240, 800 acres. And they're approaching people that are landowners and probably in the later years, later stages. And they're making some pretty attractive offers for this land, for leasing it, anywhere from 20, 40, some are 99-year leases. And these are, right now, the big company is not even actually a U.S. company. I believe it's a Canadian company that's coming in and putting these solar panels up. And then they lease them out. Because we've taken. And it's all regulated by, yes, so there's not a lot of local control. Not a lot townships can do to block these things. So we have I think there's gonna be probably a series of 3 or 4 bills. The one bill that I'm working on is actually requiring, any farmland, to be used. Where they don't allow any sales of the farmland, unless it's below a certain agricultural. Which makes sense, you know, you don't want any, regulate farmland used for the solar farms. You know, and there's a couple of concerns. Some of our concerns are these uses are being tied up for 20, 40, 99 years. You're taking away productive farmland that, you know, we grow food, corn for ethanol, corn for feed for our animals. And then the other part of it is the status part. The people that are selling the property are all for these solar farms. People there coming out very well. People that live around it, that moved out into the country, you know, they moved out in the country for a reason. Not really to be looking at these massive solar farms. And you're seeing a few of them popping up here and there. The Pickett area, County Road F. There are a number of potential proposed farms that are coming in. So this is something that the other big bill that we the speaker asked a number of us to work on is so we've been working on you know, I mean, it looks as though the Senate, you know, there might be some interest in the Senate, for seeing that, move forward. And, it all depends on, you know, what the language. I'm sure there's other things that we want to.
When you're there, we have to. Two things that is so far. Within this district, and then more coming up. That's what it is. Going to do well. Yeah, out. And from a legislation standpoint, it is, we keep kind of hearing and seeing. We are at some level of every profession, we are at a crisis. So we're going to really start. Prove that was including but not limited to universal licensure or maybe I have a vice chair out with regular committee, so it's definitely something more people say one word. Anyway, possible. Sure. One thing I will have is what Sean and I are working on today for any additional questions for our state representative?
Oh, I'm Chuck. Just, as far as affordable daycare, you know, it's hard to get 2 people to the workforce. But if you're making $50 an hour, that's $2,400 a month. Daycare costs $2,000 a month. By the time I pay taxes, I'm gonna go behind. So how do you get 2 people back in the workforce? When my wife and I had children, you could get daycare for basically $40 a week for 1 child, maybe $60 for 2. It basically has skyrocketed. There's no way you're gonna get 2 people coming back to work and basically losing money to go to work. They might as well stay home and one of them help raise the child, you know, so you have to find some way of getting affordable daycare. If you ever want to get two people back in, I mean, they have skyrocketed. You know, if you've got a newborn and a 3-year-old, you're looking at $2,000 a month for daycare, and you're gonna pay me $15 an hour to get a job, that's $2,400. By the time I pay for tax, there's no money left. So why would I go to work? If you want to get people back in the workforce, you have to find some way, either subsidizing daycare or some affordable daycare to get the people to want to come back to work.
I was at a WIXA meeting on Friday, and in January of next year, the childcare, funding from the government is dropping $22 million. And that means they're going to lose that kind of money. It's so crisis that we can't simply look at it as a woman's issue because she's giving birth and why is she giving birth if she can't afford. This is a workforce issue. People, there are jobs. People need to fill those jobs. People have children, and we need to be taking care of them.
Actually, Advocate is working on the program where they're doing kind of like micro centers, and they're giving grants and loans for individuals that want to open up smaller units. They're finding buildings and with so if enough people, want to start their own daycare, we just met with that people last week. Colleagues that met with them, but it was very intriguing because they really weren't asking. They were looking at fundamentals. And just finding a mom that maybe is taking care of her kids, to open up her own business. It would be small enough where it wouldn't fall under the DHS purview and have to comply with the sheriff's program and what have you. But kind of a neat concept, and so I think you'll maybe start seeing that.
Dinosaur solutions for our children.
Well, you have other,
Yeah.
other than just
I
opening up.
Well, I believe that we should be able to deduct childcare expenses from taxes. It's a cost of doing business, and the childcare cost should be deducted from your income tax.
Seems to me that we've got a nice vision getting down to the individual family that wants to run daycare. What I know is in the past, each person has to be licensed and try to work at a daycare center in some form. Is that correct?
Yes.
If you're gonna go out and you're gonna have family take over daycare in a neighborhood and make up a small daycare for the neighborhood, they still have to be licensed. Still have to run the same checks.
They wouldn't have a lot of the same requirements as the bigger daycares because of the number. They don't have to have a reading specialist and dietary. When you're looking at smaller numbers, I believe the number is, I want to say it's under 10, so 7.
So, they gotta have 7 kids around. And that used to be for in-home. They go to a business incubator site, learn how to do it. And then they bring it to their home and do it. There's a lot of good ones happening here in the Oshkosh area. Toured a couple of them, and it's an innovative way to do it. I think if the one person who has worked to convince it can do that. The problem with daycare is they can't pay their employees enough.
You know, where I work. You just put money in pay those points. And that is, in Madison, your scenario of a newborn and a 3-year-old, 25, 2,700, it's nuts.
Crazy, no, I don't know if we can afford it. I mean, why do you have to stay
I was
on?
fortunate to ride like.
We have to be nice. Right. Should roll that. What we pay. Take care. So that you can have 2 people. Why? Steve's right. It doesn't pay to have 2 people working. You gotta have the good one.
Say the solution. It's a natural population. Something like, you know. And I also think business, they want to take it out. Of the public private.
A lot of good discussion. Take care. Any other questions for our state representative? We're good. Okay. If not, okay, before we move on to the federal, everybody, are you concerned? Okay, I want to express my appreciation for our state representative attending. I hope we continue to do that. We have a very good relationship, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you. Yes.
I'd just like to say, you know, and you're in a difficult position. You don't create a product. You rely on tax money, and you only have so much money to spend. If you want more money, you gotta get the tax credit. So it's not like you have a miracle that you can just say, well, we're gonna help all of you. We're gonna give you a 1% of the sales tax. You have no added revenue unless you come back to the tax state and get more money. I really appreciate you coming here and listening to us. And, you know, we try to basically give you as much information as what we need so that you can help us. But I understand where you're coming from. You have no magic balls and you can just create more money. If you want more money, you gotta get it from me. And that's the only place. When we want more money, we gotta get it from you. You know, so we're all working in the same goal. We're not like Mercury Marine where we can come up with a new motor and all of a sudden we can make more profit. We don't make a profit. We basically take money from our citizens and we try to use it wisely. And I feel sorry for all, like even our county employees, we gave them a 4% raise. Inflation was 8.7. They had to cut their budget 4.7% because they cannot buy this year what they could buy last year for the same amount of money. And that's what we have to do as a group of individuals. We have to basically look at our budget, what is necessity and what is want. And we can basically realign some of that and maybe we can give a daycare credit in taxes or some form where we can get the other person back into the work. You're struggling to find people at your, restaurant, and everybody does. But how can you expect somebody to go out and work for 160 hours a month and lose money? It doesn't make any sense.
If you can't create more money, you also can't create more people. So, and I'm not gonna come and ask you for more money. So if I do that, tell me to get out of here.
Any other comments or questions for? Okay, now we'll move on to item number 15, which is an update from the federal representative.
Morning, everybody. Appreciate you being here from Brooklyn's office, district office. He's in Washington, D.C. this week. HR 1, we are securing American energy for all, the future in the House. So, come back a little bit in January. I think you all know, the House of Representatives switched, from Democratic control to Republican control. This, Kevin McCarthy is a speaker. Congressman Grossman is on the same three committees, the previous Congresses were on budget, education, workforce, and oversight. Where he, on oversight, he's the ranking member of the chair on the subcommittee on national security. But I think some of the major focuses for Republicans this Congress, obviously, inflation, energy prices, and I think that's the next course of the 2 years. Right now, still in the state, we are in budget season or in budget season. So they do have a budget in the federal level, but then that's how you can you're going to spend money, and appropriations is what's not subject. So appropriation season is kind of going on right now with members in the appropriation committee reacting to the president's budget about a couple of weeks ago. They look at that as a draft, they go into the appropriations room, and they try to figure out where their numbers are at, and then I think in around May, June, we'll get the first release of what numbers are. One of the frustrating things I think in the spending realm is just that there's far too much spending. The president's most recent budget, it was allotting for spending over $7 trillion. So, in the recent years, this has been kind of the norm. You look at in the close of 2019, the average spending that the government would have would be about $4 trillion. That would run everything from Social Security, defense spending, anything that's spent, federally spent, came out of that 4.2 trillion. In 2020, during the coronavirus crisis, then federal spending boomed to $8 trillion. So we doubled federal spending in 2020. 2021 it tapered off a little bit underneath. But now we still, as federal government, have been spending $7.5 trillion. That's just the regular annual budget. So we've doubled it. So they have the federal government again hit the gas on this inflation crisis and it becomes where some of the locals are saying again a mile of road in 2019 is not what a mile of road costs right now. So even if they keep pumping out money in local governments, it still is creating a situation where there's all this money slumped around the pot, and then there's not enough workforce, not enough supply chain crisis, everything like that. Where when we bring that to the market, that it doesn't nearly buy what we it could have bought, and then to complicate things even more, it seems like then the only people that can afford to build them are government. I mean, so when we're talking about home prices, single family home, I mean, there's a multitude of crises going on right now. And again, because there's so much money sloshing around the pot. So I think one of the difficult jobs in government is to sort of fiscal constraint here and tell them how to go. I think that right now there's just been that that wedge that opened it up with coronavirus to keep that virus, keep the emergency, the state of emergency going so that they can keep printing money and handing it out. Because the Feds now, where Senator Biden really said the state can't create money, the Feds can, and they have been doing that quite a bit. So again, one of the struggles that the congressman had, bringing back some fiscal restraint to hopefully we have, he's had a number of bills that he's introduced already. Some of the previous Congresses, I think, a couple weeks ago, he introduced, the Congressional Home Bill for the Hmong Act. So, with the Hmong population, he would like. He also has, bill out there was the previous Congress reforming some of the federal statutes for the individuals with workplace disabilities. So right now, if you have, individuals that, under the age of 24 with like a cognitive disability, that wanted to go into a workplace, work with bagging groceries or something, more simple task. There are workplace centers for individuals with those cognitive disabilities, but to federally apply, into those standards or into those, workplaces, with, peers that, some supervision that understands, medical staff that understands, what you're going through, and then peers also have those kind of disabilities. You have to be federally fired from a job several times, 3 or 4 times, before you can apply to one of those centers, which I think is actually extremely cool. That, the only time in the house that they would, have to be fired before they can be transitioned into one of those. Other than that, I believe last week he introduced again. If we look at a group called ABODs, able-bodied males without dependents, kind of a long acronym, but these able-bodied males without dependents are a focus of a lot of government spending programs. So you're looking at food stamps, any sort of federal program. If you have this lone male working age that doesn't have children, their direction believes that that person should be either volunteering to earn their food stamps, putting in some time at doing some job searching exercises and everything, having to get resumes out and everything. Because again, we've got so many people sidelined right now that if you're looking at the smallest group, I mean, that would be a group of individuals that should be out there helping some of this work. After we will find ourselves. Just use that again. I'm sure that in the House this year, I think a lot of those bills will be popular. There'll be a lot trying to move the needle that direction, reduce spending, tighten up on immigration. But then, as you know, we put it in the Senate chamber. We have no bearing on it. It's going to be a challenge, this Congress, but I think we'll be in a better situation after we move on.
Thank you for your report. If I may preempt questions, you referred to how much money the federal government is spending. There's a number of between 8 trillion.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know what the average money is?
It's like 2.7 or 3 billion. So I mean, there's always deficit spending.
There's a lot of money on the credit card.
A lot of money on the credit card, and that was even when we had 4 trillion. That was when the spending was $4 trillion. We bring about 65% of that up, and everything else is bought. So everything beyond that now, since 2020, has been bought, has been put on the credit card, and it doesn't seem that there's much of an effort to slow that either. So there's some pretty depressing and or fascinating charts when you kind of break all this down. And I think that we find ourselves in a unique financial situation where, spending for a rainy day, people thought it was raining all the time, and then when it actually did start raining, trying to make sure the ship doesn't sink, but we're getting close.
Let's open up for questions from the committee. Anybody have Tom?
Not only a question, but how Chris is gonna regret the fact that he's at that. I am tested in my email through him to help the CBSO Act. I passed the House last time, but we couldn't get it out of the Senate.
Could you define the act that was to increase funding for
Protecting veterans and service announcements. Okay. All I have to make about this, hopefully is that out of the 18 of my brothers and sisters who kill themselves every single day, 14 of them are not known to their veteran service. CBSO Act will at least try and identify before they kill themselves. so we can help. Well, anyway, I'm pretty impressed about that. The only difference between the 17th section and 118 and all of that, in the House bill right now, there's a little more defining language to include tribal veterans in the House. And, so I'm gonna keep on emailing.
Yep.
Thank you for your
I have to say.
Able-bodied men, no dependents, my grandson, who's 15, has Down syndrome. Thankfully, he's rather high functioning, but he will not be able to hold down a job that will support him the rest of his life. He'll be dependent. I have a friend with twin boys, 22 years old, so severely autistic, neither one of them speak. They have no language with each other. They have a small crafting thing that they do. But these are able-bodied, these are good, strong, healthy, able-bodied men, and they'll never have dependents. They're never going to be able to hold on a job. When you say able-bodied, are you also thinking about?
Yeah, so that would be in a different category. I mean, that would be, without a disability. Any sort of cognitive or need disability. These are able-bodied males without dependents, that have no disabilities, that aren't on any sort of cognitive spectrum or anything like that, that they are, again, high school graduates, healthy males, that sideline. This is not, something, anybody that would qualify for any sort of assistance or disabilities, everything that's not.
Just want to make sure that
Yeah.
able-bodied is
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
their minds and their brains.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, a little bit if you want. Are we sitting at this? No, we- Speaking with us, I have something really about me. This happens. Saudi Arabia, things like that. What do we do?
So I think, with the developments in, the Saudis, and yes, it is 100% very concerning. I think that the evaluation of the dollar is something that we can do ourselves.
Money, it doesn't matter. This is, yeah,
This is the geopolitical strategy. This is a lot of things in the background too, with, China, Russia, Ukraine, in my opinion, Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, and then the Middle East. And, we all got together and said, hey, nobody's going to buy it. And everybody said, yeah, great. We're all, together. And then, after a couple of weeks, we had, that oil's, pretty cheap. We're going to come. So then, we're gonna go, yeah, we get it, it's all okay. So then, there still have been purchasing, and then China, regardless of what they said, has always been purchasing the oil. So they've gotten this energy cycle there that they've kind of, had cheap energy for themselves for over a year now, I'd say, with the oil. And then, now they kind of upped it because even when the Ukraine state came back, Ukraine, we were printing some money, and with all the money. Well, again, there's so much in the dollar. $1. I'd say it's highly concerning. It is kind of where the evolution of this crisis is taking place. I'd say that again, one of our kind of driving reasons though is modify keep throwing ourselves with oil. And, you know, we were energy independent in 2019, you know, and then first thing on this executive orders and everything, I think regardless of you feel, you know, that investment in renewables, everything, that's great. But again, we're taking out farmland for solar panels, we're going wind turbine, you know, it's really cool. I think we've seen it. Really good. It's a huge monetary policy, and I think that again, it goes back down to energy. I mean, some of the simple drive and here. Yeah. They're zero code. They're trying to ramp their economy back up. So that's gonna be really quickly exacerbating oil. They're starting to have more fleets, bringing like that. So again, the demand for this oil, this limited oil, Russia will begin to still be something there. So, you know, I think that's the cheap. It's going to be, we're at $70 a barrel. So, you know, now you can totally something there. Anything that goes with diesel prime, it's not. So, and you know, all things that we're looking at is, but yeah, I'd say the evaluation, they're, it's highly concerning. They will be trying to address it, but yeah, the rain out of them. It hasn't been that money that these homes are in real time.
Thank you, Mr. M. for your more tied in there. If we don't control inflation, that affects county budget, that affects town budget, city budget, village budget. So
And that's what we're running with the wiring.
where's that gonna end?
I'd say, so one, I'll say that, so like, I studied political science in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and I graduated in 2009. I'd say that even on our, we circled in there, especially, you know, I'm in DC in 2010, everybody kind of had 2030s as a time that's going to be a little dicey because 2035 was where, you know, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, trust funds, like, all those things like intersected where they're not going to have enough coming in to what's going out, you know, with the boomers retiring and everything like that. So we always thought, you know, then politically we're like, it's going to be a little dicey. Well, now,
Dicey.
what's that?
Define dicey.
The fact that there's not enough of us working to pay in for as much as going out to all those that are.
So are you predicting recession?
So I'm saying, so even more then we knew that there would be problems. It was all about the Congress, you know, what to do. So that, you know, the whole kicking the can down the road, that popular slogan and everything. They have been kicking the can down the road, and then you know, that 2035 Social Security and everything. And Marker was assuming 2% inflation throughout, which hasn't been the case. So if you're going to cost of living and everything, inflation, you're taxing years of what that 2035, 2036 prediction was. So I mean, if you have an 8-year, if you have an 8% inflation, you just tack down 3 more additional years off that. And then if you just double government spending, you've gotten yourself in debt to currently before the debt crisis even really started. So I think, you know, while I don't think there's any avenue to change any sort of Social Security or anything for any proposal for social security for, current retirees, most retirees. But, I do think, going into it, we always kind of knew that our generation, and Ron Johnson actually has a pretty good soundbite or a series of soundbites where he kind of looks at people, generations that are 20 under, 30 and under, if you would poll them, what they expect to see from social security, they'd say nothing. They'd say, we don't expect to see anything. And he's like, well, that's a good starting point. We're in a hard generation. You guys like, we're already expecting nothing, how we perform this and everything. So I do think, eventually it will come to reforms having to be made, but it is one of those, so that was always on the horizon. And now that we find ourselves in a printing crisis and everything too with, government that printing money, it again only exacerbates. So, I'm sure we'll get through it.
Any additional questions? Well, I certainly thank you for your comments. Your comments are highly. Very much appreciate it. Yes, sir. Vice Chairman, good.
Have you made any progress on the debt ceiling? I mean, we basically reached the debt ceiling, and we're basically taking money from different entities to money. Last time the government shut down, we shut down for maybe 5 days, and we basically paid all the people when they came back to work. So, I mean, I truly hate to see it shut down again and theoretically give people a 5-day vacation, because when they come back to work, we're going to make them whole. And have we made any progress on the debt ceiling, or are we looking at running out of money in July or August?
I do think they are making progress on it. I will say that there were some reforms made the last shutdown during Trump. I think it was 2017. It was one of the longer shutdowns that we had. Politicians shut down the government. Some federal workforce stays home, all mandatory payments, everything. So Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all those offices stay open and everything. But with how expansive the federal government was, I mean, I think there were 1/3 to 2/3 that weren't, that were in that bottom. 8 months go up. And in everybody's day to day, there really not a lot of people don't notice when that happens, just how big the federal government is. And then, okay, the government comes back, everybody's back there. Now, a lot of that, there was a bill to reform that, since it's assumed that, codified that federal workforce will be paid. Politicians can't punish, somebody that works for the Fish and Wildlife Service because Congress couldn't get funded. So now I think there's even more insularity beds that won't stay home because they will be assumed payments, so they will continue showing up. But that, again, doesn't solve entirely the debt ceiling itself. So yeah, I think there's progress being made. I know that there's, discussions ongoing. It's another one of those political, we're using it to say, if there's not some reforms here, we're going to find ourselves having to raise the debt ceiling and raise the debt ceiling. We can't stop some of the money being cut from the checkbook. Then the debt ceiling thing is kind of moved because we're going to automatically do it every time. However, now with Republicans having the House, the standpoint has really been looking to try to, hey, what can we limit or what certainties can we have to reduce spending, maybe find some tax incentives as the state's been doing. Are there things that we could just incentivize with the tax code so we can stop direct payment down so that we could, balance the books a little more? So I think there's progress being made, but I do think that, rightfully so, they're trying to get some reforms through that to maybe reduce the amount of money outgoing.
Like, you cannot continue so. Eventually it catches up with the budget bankruptcy. The government is a lot larger than I know. But if you continue to do that year after year, continue to raise the debt ceiling, and now interest rates are going up substantially. So those 10-year bonds are paying a lot more. So you're consuming a lot more debt just on the interest to keep the government afloat. We have to look at programs and what we need and what we want. And we keep the needs, but we have to do it from the want. You know, I mean, it's like, we can't fund everything, we can't take care of every country, like we talked about social security being, it'll run out of funding, yet we don't find any problem finding billions of dollars to get through training. You know, all the country, we can write checks out left and right for them, and that's good. But then we talk about the people that paid in their whole life for social security. I had to work on 66 and a half to get full social security. What's gonna happen with social security? You're gonna collect it at 70, 72. They'll never go away, but you may never live long enough to collect it.
Your comment.
I just want to piggyback off of that, so we actually didn't get a budget pass. Actually got a budget pass. Money has to keep breaking the deficit.
I've been working on, I've worked out in Washington, obviously, I actually worked with this. But I'd say as long as I've been there, it was always the whole thing. We're gonna pass the budget and we're gonna let anybody, all the appropriations committees, and that's what they, were inside that budget. And then bring it before the house and you approve it, and that's your annual thing. Now we will probably go through the appropriation bills individually because we'll this recess in the members. And when they go back out in September, we will have end of fiscal year and we'll have to get together what they call an omnibus, which is a big hotspot, or a minibus, which is multiple meetings on this. But that's something they've passed with budget bills. Government spending. I think the last one, regular order. We'll try to get our numbers in line. I think that's been more of the marker. Get your numbers in line, kind of look at Senate, and quote there, and then they find out where they have it. 2,700.
Very excellent discussion. Any further questions for our Representative Goldman? Would that be correct?
Yeah, sure.
Hearing nothing else, we'll move on to agenda item 16. Topics to be discussed at the next legislative committee meeting. Resolutions from other counties. I'm not aware of any coming forward, but they always do, every county board meeting, they have something for it. Next meeting date, I believe, unless there is concern among the meetings, right?
Are we gonna put the Supervisor Gordon brought us on the next legislature? Is that automatic? That's
That
automatic.
will be on there automatically. It's been postponed until that date. The next meeting date here, now according to my calendar, we're looking at the 4th Monday of May.
22nd.
Which would be the 22nd. That concludes our agenda. Representatives, state and federal for attending, it's very much appreciated. At this point, I'll accept the motion to adjourn. And a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thanks for doing
Oh, I will do that. And I gotta figure out what's my video. Yes, yeah. We're getting there. What?
it.
Yeah.